The polls are closed, the counting has begun, and here's Piers Morgan. Piers, you're in New York too, I believe, but it looks like you're in a bathroom.
I am in a bathroom. I'm beamed live to you from my bathroom of a hotel in Manhattan because you know what? We're all jobbing hacks, aren't we, Harry? So I'm roughing it for
I,
you.
I mean, anything for the sun reader. I thought you'd be down at Mar-a-Lago or somewhere. What's your plans this evening?
Now, I've been doing quite a lot of interviews actually from various trucks and things. So yeah, look, I actually what I really enjoy most is watching this on my own. I like to do election nights on my own, watching on about four different screens, and I can never remember any election that's been this close
Yeah.
in every poll, national and swing state. And that's what makes it fascinating. I said to someone earlier, you could get any result here. Trump could win narrowly, Harris could win narrowly, they could both win a landslide. My gut feeling is that Trump's going to win, but literally any result is possible because everything is so tight.
Do you think that the pollsters are going to get this wrong again, though? 2016, even in 2020, when Trump lost, he still lost by a smaller margin than the polls were saying he was going to do. Are we going to see another classic egg on the face of the pollsters evening?
Well, I think that the reality with Trump is there's a lot of people who don't like to boast about voting Trump.
Yeah.
And I've certainly felt that a lot more in New York and LA, where I spent a lot of time in the last few weeks and months than I've ever seen before. You know, in 2016, no one dared mention his name in
Yeah.
the cities. Now people are a lot more bold in saying, you know what, I don't like him particularly, but I'm going to vote for him. And that's what made me think that I think that underneath all the noise around this election, the two big issues are the economy, the cost of living crisis, and the crisis on the southern border with immigration. And I think that in both of those issues, the American people, in all the polling I've seen, trust Trump a lot more
Yeah.
than Kamala Harris to fix it. So if he wins, that will be why.
Well, on that point though, shouldn't he be walking this then? It shouldn't even be close. If he's got the top three issues and he's up against, let's not beat around the bush here, a pretty duff candidate
Yeah.
who's had the worst possible start with having to ease out geriatric Joe to even get a tilt at it. And the more people see her in interviews, the less they like her. Trump should be storming this.
He should be, but he's Donald Trump. He's the single most polarizing character in American political history. So for everyone who loves him, there's someone that really, really hates him. There's no middle ground with Trump. You don't meet many Americans who go, I'm not really sure what I think of Donald. So he's very visceral in terms of the way the electorate respond to him. And I think that's why he's not running away with it. A lot of people think if there'd been a very moderate, regular kind of Republican nominee, they would be running away with it. But as it is, it's tight. But because the swing states are so tight in the polling, it wouldn't take much of a movement for someone on either side, and I think it might be Trump, to actually win a lot of them and sweep away with a landslide. It could happen.
When do you expect a result? Do you reckon it's going to be a sort of 2020 situation, or might we know by breakfast how things are looking?
You know, historically, you normally know within a day with America. Last time, because of the pandemic, things were a bit skewed because of how people could vote. And obviously, in the year 2000, we had the famous hanging chads
Yeah.
with Bush and Gore. I don't think we're going to get into that. I think that there will be a result probably within 24 hours, as there normally is with American elections. The question is, what will that result be? And I think anyone, Harry, who tries to tell you that they know what's going to happen is
Yeah.
talking out of their posterior.
Well, we've had plenty of spin and noise, and it's not long to go now before looking at the results. I read in the Sun the other day that you were back in sex banter with your mate Donald. How is he? Have
Yeah.
you heard from him recently? Is he
Yeah,
chill?
I went to his rally, the controversial one at the Madison Square Garden. I flew in the day before to New York, and I messaged him in the morning to say, I'm going to go to the rally. Would love to catch up if you get the chance. And he rang me about 20 seconds later, like he had nothing better to do on a Sunday morning with a week to the election. I mean, it had been a great chat, and he was very excited about playing the MSG. It was interesting how that got played out because anyone who was there knows it was not a neo-Nazi rally.
Yeah. I mean, the media hysteria has been.
Third mischaracterization. But the thing that struck me, Harry, was really interesting was I saw a guy from the Secret Service and I said, how many protesters have turned up? 150. They were expecting thousands. And if you think back to 2016 when Trump first ran, everywhere he went, particularly on the East Coast, there would be hundreds of thousands of people protesting and raging and howling and all the rest of it. That simply isn't happening this time around. So although they say he's the new Hitler on the left, the reality is if they did believe that, they'd probably come out and protest, and they haven't been.
I think the protest more likely could be on the other side if he does win. We're going to see the sort of wokies losing their mind, aren't we?
Of course. They're doing it with rank hypocrisy as they always do.
Indeed, Piers. Before I let you go, I'm going to ask you a couple of quick fire questions. Can you sum up each of the candidates in 3 words?
Well, Donald Trump, I would say unpredictable, chaotic, brutally effective. As a double word at the end, brutally effective.
And Kamala Harris?
Kamala Harris, unsubstantial, vacuous, pointless.
Pretty brutal. Joe Biden?
Old, decrepit, doesn't know what day it is.
I think that's more than 3 words. I mean, we saw what it would look like if Joe Biden had stayed in the race last week with those garbage comments and sort of wittering away on Zoom. Do you think the Democrats had any other choice or any other play to make other than squeezing him out? And do you think things could have been different if they hadn't gone for Kamala?
I think they had to get rid of him. It's clear from his public appearances ever since that he's simply not fit. I mean, what's extraordinary is he remains the president of the United States. If there is an attack on America tomorrow, it'll be down to Joe Biden to decide what the response is. And I don't think anyone in America feels comfortable that this guy who barely seems to know what day it is would be making those kind of decisions. So it's a very unusual situation. No, I think the mistake the Democrats made, and look, let's wait and see the result. If she wins, it won't be a mistake. But the coronation of Kamala Harris, rather than having some kind of broker convention where you let other people come and pitch their hat in to take over from Biden, I would have done that if I were them. Apart from anything else, what you get if you do that, you get a bit of a roughing up of all the candidates, which they could then find very helpful when they go into the main battle against Trump. I've just felt she's been ill prepared. I mean, most of the interviews she gives, to be fair to her, she gave a good debate. She beat Trump in the debate, but the interviews have been increasingly vacuous. And, if you ask Americans, what would Kamala do for you? They don't seem to know the answer.
Well, what does the Harris presidency look like for the world? More of the same, or is it, is it really going to be any different?
I think there'll be a massive difference between Trump presidency and Harris presidency. But between Harris and Biden, there's not a paper to be put between them. I mean, she's admitted it. She said, what would you have done differently? Nothing. What would you regret? Nothing. So she's in there 100% with Biden and his record. And that record has been, they've had some successes, but they've had generally a failure to deal with the 2 big issues: cost of living and inflation, and prices for people at the petrol pump and the grocery stores and so on, and also immigration, which has been completely out of control in America. And I think her failure to deal with those 2 things on her and Biden's watch may well come back and haunt her at the result.
Speaking to Republicans in DC and yesterday, or I don't losing track of time, whenever it was, they're saying that actually the strategic error that Trump made in this campaign was agreeing to do that debate before before the conventions had even happened. Do you think if it had gone longer, it would have been harder to get rid of Biden? This race could look very different now.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think if Biden was the candidate, then Trump would be winning by an automatic landslide. But I think that the debate was a bad night for Trump. Suddenly, he didn't have this doddery old opponent that made look ridiculous. He had a woman who's 20 years younger. She conducted herself well. She was well prepped for that debate, and she beat him. But if you look at the fact she hasn't given a single press conference, she became nominee. I mean, that is running and hiding from scrutiny in a way that I think is ridiculous if you're going to want to run the country.
Well, you can see what the White House would be like under her. I can't imagine the Sun's newsroom getting much access, or anyone else, in fact.
No, look, she's going to get in a room with Vladimir Putin, President Xi, and Kim Jong-un. And I think if you can't handle a press conference, how much confidence can we have she could handle a 3-hour meeting with Putin?
Yeah, fairly terrifying thought that. Piers, just before you go, one last question. What's your message to Donald Trump if he doesn't win? I mean, people are nervous that we're going to see scenes of pretty, grimness like we saw last time round. Do you think he'll go swan off to the golf course, or will he try and...
I hope so. I hope there's nothing like we saw last time. It was disgusting. The January 6th riots were completely disgusting. And Trump's refusal to accept the result of that election ever since has been completely wrong. I've told him to his face in an interview, and he got very angry with me. But the reality is they've tried everything they can to press through courts legal claims that have all been rejected, including by a number of Republican judges. So there is no evidence that the 2020 election was stolen. Trump just lost. And if he loses this time, in a way, you've got to think that is the end of Trumpism and MAGA, really. And I think the Republican Party will then move quite quickly away from him. Conversely, if he wins, it's the greatest comeback in political history anywhere in the world. And you've got to think that maybe J.D. Vance or one of these characters under Trump will be looking for 4 years' time and thinking, I could be next.
Could be the biggest comeback since Piers Morgan, you might say.
Nothing can be better than that, Harry. You know
that. Take care, Piers. Enjoy your data industry. Thanks for joining us.
All the best. Take care.